So it's recording, but you know, even when I see it stream all this part, it doesn't always record it. So I like to wait, make sure that it's working. Even when I see it stream all this part, looks like it is. All right. So what I did is I just wrote a couple things down on a 3x5 card. I use 3x5 cards a lot. I have a couple spare packs here. They're my favorite. They're my favorite thing is, I have some cork board I mounted on the wall over here so I could just plaster poems, joke ideas, like that joke about my cats being communists. They're always bringing up Mao, other jokes, ideas, pictures of Atlantis, because I have this like epic style. It would be a multi-novel if I ever make it about Atlantis, Atland, the continent of Atland. The real thing, because every time I speculate something for the fiction, I go ahead and research it, and it turns out valid. So obviously, my theory must be good. It's kind of like some people that create physical theories and scientific theories. It's like just keeps working out. Like for example, right where I thought it, oh look, Facebook is telling me something. Hold on. Oh, conservative uncle. Oh, whatever. Jesus, it's related to this actually. Yeah, 3x5 cards. I just like taking notes. There's a lot of things you can do. You can use weird letters, like have more than one style of letter. Like I can do an A with the little thing, or I can not do it, or I can print all caps and small caps, and I can write over something twice and make it bold, and I could do these borders and outlines. And you can just make like a little work of art that's a little enthronement of an idea. And it's not a big commitment, and so that's what I've done for this, right? So this is, I believe this is, if I recall, the standard model. Some of it's obscured, the part up here. And then this is some Feynman diagram, forget what it was, of. Over here is how much thorium is a lifetime supply of thorium. That would be that ball of thorium is the lifetime supply for an American. Of course, it'd go up with, if we use nuclear energy, safe nuclear energy, the price of energy would drop so drastically. We'd probably use 3 times as much as that, so on and so forth. We get to use the instant runoff voting in Maine for this election, but only for federal, because our state constitution has some, I consider it ambiguous language, but the lawyers in the state have said no, it doesn't support IRV. So our state offices, like governor, are old style, but we get to vote for federal offices using instant runoff voting, or as we call it here, ranked choice voting. So you go 1, 2, 3. You can vote for Nader as number 1, and then vote for the 2 and 3 in whatever order you prefer. So, all right, the first thing is conservatives. So I made that last video about, I just, at the end of my rope kind of thing with conservatives, and I feel like I've always given them such a fair shake, and You know how conservatives sometimes say, "Oh, I'm classically liberal." Well, I'm classically conservative. I believe in preserving tradition and changing things slowly and incrementally, and that there you can have a meritocracy in the economy that's better than a monarchy. Like people shouldn't be powerful just because they were born to powerful people. But, if somebody can figure out how to make something useful for everybody, they probably should be rich. And if that's going to mean they have some extra power, then that would be okay. Those are conservative ideas. It's just that I don't think that in game theory, the way to run a giant economy is no regulations. It's like, no, I don't agree with this idea that, you know, the fairest game is that turns out the most fair and appropriate is the one with no rules. Hey, let's play basketball, everybody, and we're going to play super fair basketball. What kind of basketball is that? Oh, it's the one where there's no rules. That way, the best will win. Doesn't even make sense. You have to have rules to even define what winning means. But modern conservative, modern conservatism, um, is this weird thing that now, I just feel is totally disingenuous. And so I made my last video saying that, and then I happened to notice that the previous video was like that. Well, this is a lot of what I've been thinking about. I don't want to go into it for this whole video, but I'm still thinking about it. It's like, okay, I'm pro-immigration. I know that Democrats aren't for open borders because when I argue with Democrats, they're not for open borders. And since I am, though I've had one guy point out, you know who you are, that I'm not really for open borders because I believe you can check for diseases, assuming, obviously you're going to give the person the vaccination they're missing or whatever. You could check for warrants for your arrest. But basically, if you're healthy and you're not a criminal, you can just come right in. And if you're sick, you can come in, but we might want you to get treated in the hospital before you go any further. Fine, you're against that. But you conservatives are like, oh, you're pro-crime. No, I'm not pro-crime. If you want to argue that I'm necessarily pro-crime, that argument is based on how many of these immigrants are criminals compared to how many criminals we're already having, and arguments like that. And even then, you would have to say that I am deluded and I don't realize how immigrants raise crime in an unacceptable way. But even that would be a waste of time because the real issue is I'm pro-immigration. I'm not pro-crime. The fact that you have to say, oh, you're pro-crime. Meanwhile, you're like, we are pro-legal immigration, but you're not. You make up nasty names for legal immigration, like anchor babies, which is legal, like chain migration, which is legal. Not only legal, but it's family reunification, which is an American ethic. North America, all of the Americas, North and South America, we're the ones with this, hey, you're born here, you're a citizen laws. It's pretty easy to figure out why. Europe doesn't have those kind of laws. Germany's been very slow to even get anything similar. Like if one person is, why? Well, because they're 1,000-year-old cultures and nations and stuff. We're all immigrants over here, so we're more pro-immigrant. Surprise! Yeah, that's how that goes. A lot of us are more pro-immigrant. Even you anti-immigration conservatives are probably more pro-immigrant than a lot of, I don't know, liberals in Europe, and you don't even know it. With your we're for pro-immigration, legal immigration. Okay, so it just seems disingenuous to me. And this is a huge problem for me because it just feels like, okay, yeah, well, fine. It's you versus me. You don't want to work anything out. Now, I've been also thinking about science because, I like alt science. But the problem is I hate conspiracies, and it's become clear to me while I could tolerate alt science systems in the past, most of them, if not all, most are totally like they have an addendum, an appendix, a major appendix, a foreword. It's sprinkled throughout the system. They're conspiracy theories, and I hate conspiracy theories now. I'm very interested in them. I love Fortean concepts. I study them. I find them fascinating. I used to have a high tolerance for them culturally. Like, yeah, this is people thinking independently. But when they start to take hold, like anybody can just think, oh yeah, I can think whatever I want. The facts don't matter. Well, of course, Pyrrho, you can think what you want. No, the facts matter, right? Real science, no matter what your model is, it has to go through this fact that we have a series of experiences. You have to accept the experiences. You can't deny them. You can say, oh, they're an illusion if you explain them, explain what is generating the illusion. So there's the illusion. You can explain it, but that's, like one of the facts of life is that you're having this illusion. Maybe once you understand the illusion, you can stop having the illusion. But if you do or you don't, it's a series of experience. Science has to go with that, and you have to look as close as possible at your experiences, including creating experiments, which are, creating experiences that you'll have when you run the experiment that look close into things. You have to do that. These conspiracy theories that, you know, thousands of scientists over dozens of generations or 10 or 5 generations is lying and making this, it's ridiculous. They could be wrong, and in fact, as a skeptic and a scientist type attitude, a natural philosopher, of course they're wrong in the sense that some of them are making claims that'll turn out to not work in whatever paradigm is next. But they're not in a big conspiracy cabal to make it so you don't get the Nobel Prize, and Pyrrho never admits that your system is worth anything to him as far as he's concerned. So there's many theories that can explain it, and some of them are just kind of like token little toy theories, like, oh, you could be in the dream of God. Look, if God created everything, I'm in God's imagination or something, or God creates the real world and I'm outside of it because he can project it, however you want to put it, I would still have to look into the physical model type approach of physics. Right? I can't ask God, so I would just have to look at how physics works and go, well, evidently God decided to make it quantum mechanical in nature. You call useless theories like maybe the quantum mechanical nature of the universe, which is so consistent, is just what Vishnu was dreaming of. Yeah, we can get to that later. We could get to it now, but basically, if I go, yeah, it was Vishnu's dream, it doesn't help me make new predictions. The only new predictions is from coming up with something like Newtonian model or quantum model, and then that model implies things I haven't tried before. I can try them and see. Right? So you can call out things that might still be true because your sense experiences could be generated by a matrix. But if I want to figure out how the matrix works, the fact that it's a matrix is almost entirely beside the point. The question would still be, how does it operate? And if I find out, well, it operates by quantum mechanical mathematics, or at least something exactly equivalent to it, that would be good enough. The last thing is disingenuous of the conservatives, the Constitution. Now, I read the Constitution regularly. It's been many years now that, the conservatives are always going, Constitution, Constitution. And I've always been like, this is an American bias, I guess, of mine, maybe. I don't know. But I really feel that it's a beautiful work of political science writing, or political philosophy writing, like on a par with John Stuart Mill or John Locke or Rawls or whoever you wanted to take. And yet we actually use it, so it's also applied political philosophy engineering, and that's pretty awesome. And I generally like it. Now, I was challenged, hey, which one do you like then if you read it? Well, I try to read it at least once a year, and when I print it out, it's around, and I read it more often. And I search it and stuff. Now, which is my favorite part of the Constitution? I thought that was kind of a pissant, kind of a, oh, really? Do you really read it? But it was funny. It made me think because, a lot of people, they don't, especially if you don't know about a particular, like if you don't go out of your way to read the Constitution from end to end. The Bill of Rights, people say. I really like Article 1, but I wouldn't say it's my favorite in that I really do think the whole thing is just beautiful. The only parts of the Constitution I don't like have already been stricken. I think you could add some concepts to it. If we ever had a constitutional convention, I'd come up with a couple ideas. But pretty much, it's really awesome. And the parts that weren't, like the 2/3, what was it? No, sorry, 3/5 slavery stuff, that's been stricken. And Article 1, to me, I decided is probably my favorite because that's just where all the important business comes in. But I'm not even sure if it's my favorite. Article 1, being the first article, has a lot of the things I like to point out to conservatives, like, you can't take payments. You can't go to your own hotel and have the government pay you. You can't go, you can't have your own personally owned business, be a government contractor and pay yourself. That's the domestic emoluments clause. That's in Article 1. You can't have a hotel or sell chicken bit nuggets to foreigners so that they have a way. These pipelines of giving you money, well, it's just for chicken nuggets. No, the Constitution doesn't allow that. I actually agree, maybe those need some updating, but this is the law of the land. Update it if you want. There's a way to update it. The Constitution, in its infinite beauty, has a way to update itself. I personally like those two clauses. And I possibly think those clauses could be used to show that privately financed campaigns are not constitutional. Obviously, that's a matter of interpretation. Nobody's gone that route yet, so other people disagree with me on that. Though I'm right, obviously. What else? Taxation. These constitutionalists, these Federalist Society, they all happen to be the same people that want to say that taxation is theft. Well, then, I guess you're not much of a constitutionalist, because in Article 1, the U.S. government is expressly granted to itself the right to tax, do tariffs, and all the rest. And we know you like tariffs, right? Which is just a kind of a tax. It seems probably minor, but this whole thing, actually, that was just off my top of my mind. My thing here points out census. I love the census. I think the fact that right in Article 1 of the Constitution is that you should collect data on your nation. Real data. You shouldn't play with it. You should not count aliens, you shouldn't not this, you shouldn't make the, you shouldn't fuck with it. You just need the data. You know what I mean? Even if it had to be secret CIA type data, which would be stupid. But even if it did, take the data for fuck's sake, for history, and for our value that we can put it to some sort of purpose, the real information, and apportionment and all the things the government does. You need that. And I almost feel like the need for the census is, again, not conventional, but this is a justification for why we need NASA, why we need the USGS, why I hate people that have all these conspiracy theories about NASA and the USGS. I mean, there's real things about NASA and USGS that, are questionable or whatever, but that's just a matter of being in touch with important data collecting agencies and when they get abused. It's not like that makes them evil. No, they're great things. We have to take a census of this land. We have to keep the data on this land. That's one of our jobs. It's our main job. How many deer are still living in the wild? Every piece of data. The cleanliness of the water. Even if we didn't care about the cleanliness of the water and we're like, hey, let all the lakes have algae blooms. We want to make money and dump shit in them. We should still be taking data, and it's in the Constitution. And, you know, people don't really support it because they're idiots. The Constitution is definitely more wise than most Americans, and especially the people that are most fond of saying they're so into it. So that's right. I don't believe conservatives are. It's a bunch of bullshit. And don't even get me started on this 14th Amendment thing where, oh, but they're illegal, so they're not in our jurisdiction. Read the 14th Amendment. A bunch of these conservatives are it's just so stupid. On the other hand, if you want me to make a video on that, just say so, because I'm considering it. So stupid. And that's not my favorite part of the Constitution, but, I definitely support it. I support writing it more clearly or whatever it takes, yeah. But of course I do, because I'm like, why wouldn't I support people born here being immigrants when I think people that aren't born here should just be able to say, hey, I got to your border. I've come inside and signed your guest book. I'm not a criminal. I know English. Hey, can I be a citizen? Yeah, of course. I would also say their kid that happened to be born here could be a citizen. Oh, that must be because you like crime. Really, that's the only reason you can think that I might like that. It's just disingenuous and bullshit. And if it's not disingenuous and it's serious, well, whatever. Like, fuck you too. Okay. I don't believe you think I'm pro-crime. I think you think it's a good move to call me pro-crime if I have the gall to like those foreign people. And I guess I've resisted it for 50 years, but I guess I'm going to have to just assume that you're racist. That's why you don't like the immigrants. And if you want that to be different, then stop calling me names, because you're looking like a big shithead to me. All right. Cheers. Signing out.